So tell me about the Davis Peplin duo. Where did you guys meet? How did you guys get involved in jazz?
Tell the story.
Well, I was playing at the Jazz Estate one night, and I lost $300. It fell out of my pocket, so I went back the next night to look for it, and I heard Neil, who I hadn't seen in years, and he was playing with Eric Jacobson's band, and he was just killing. So I asked him if he wanted to do a duo, and I had told him that I've been trying to do this thing with the cymbals, which at the time I only had one cymbal going, the hi-hat, and he said yes, and we started rehearsing, and he started booking us all these steady gigs. He got us a steady gig at the Lemon Lounge, a steady gig at the Hi-Hat. Now we've got a steady first Thursday at the Estate, and Chic, and what else? We had some other stuff.
We did the Easttown Market as well.
Okay. And so, a chance, did you ever find your $300?
No,
Oh.
no, but I got my money back.
But it was worth it?
Yeah.
It was worth it, yeah. Absolutely. Now, who did you start listening to when you said, okay, I'm going to do jazz, I'm not going to do the rock and roll route?
Well, the true way that I got into it, I guess this was around 1995, 96-ish time. I was still living at my parents'. I was a high school student, and I was teaching students, like, I would go to their house. And this one kid's dad gave me a Mahavishnu Orchestra album, The Inner Mounting Flame. And I was like, man, I have to try to get like this someday.
Well, and also musically, it stretches you in an interesting way. And as players, and particularly as guitarists, you're doing rhythm and you're also doing the lead. And sometimes you're switching. I was watching you in this last tune, switching back and forth between you without even looking. It's like, okay, it's my turn. You know, obviously you rehearse that, but still you have to be able to make that shift as a musician.
Well, there's a thing called a send-off that any traditionally oriented jazz musician will know. It's like playing a badass blues lick at the end of your solo, so that everybody knows you don't have to look, and there's no rehearsing in jazz really. Typically,
that's what I listen for, Steve, to do something.
To do something really wild.
It's just you know when the solo is going to end, when there's usually a forceful statement, or somehow you just know. It's in the language of jazz.
Well, talk to me a little bit about the cymbal. You're kind of your own rhythm section here, even more than you normally would be as two guitars. Where did this come from? Where did the idea of doing this?
I started on drums when I was a little kid. I had a Muppet drum set, and I eventually destroyed it, and my parents got me a trumpet, and it took me a long time to get my drums back, like 20 years. And I retained this part just because when you're playing in a duo, there really isn't anything that percussive, and the hi-hat is like the heartbeat of the drum set, and the ride cymbal is like the canvas for the drummer to orchestrate patterns. So you don't even really need the snare and the bass drum to have the basic elemental feel of jazz. So
before we get into the music, though, I just wanted to comment. You're doing the drum. You're talking about doing the percussion, but of course you're doing it without sticks or brushes. You're just doing it with your feet, and you've got this interesting. Is that just a piece of wire?
I totally rigged that thing up.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
It's the only cool thing about it is it's got this little skull on it here. Yeah.
Which our radio audience won't be able to see. But
no, sorry about
that's
that,
okay.
folks.
That's all right. Well, we're going to end up with some music because I want to hear one more tune before we go. But before we do, I am going to reintroduce you and say that Neil Davis and Steve Peplin are two of the Davis-Peplin Quartet. There are links to more information on our website, wuwm.com/Lake Effect. So, gentlemen, what are you going to take us out with?
This is a concept I came up with last summer, and it's a piece I wrote, and it's called Lollygag, to kind of drag behind and be needing to catch up.
Okay.
So that was it.
Well, before we go, gentlemen, thank you both so much for coming in. I appreciate you playing for us today on Lake Effect.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.